Let's talk about one of the best shows, if not one of the best shows on Netflix, a series that I have enjoyed thoroughly year after year, season after season. Let's talk about Bojack Horseman. If you're unfamiliar with the show, it's just under the sixth season. It is an adult animated comedy series about an actor named Bojack Horseman, and this is a world where there's humans and there's animal people, right? Because you got like horse, he's a horse person, you got cat people, you got dog people, you got pig people, you got turtle people. You got think of an animal, and it's probably been represented in the show. They've even done like aquatic animals and stuff like that. But anyway, BoJack Horseman is an actor. He's who was in a famous campy TV sitcom in the '90s, but he's older now and he's not getting work anymore. And as the show goes on, you find out that this guy's a bit of an asshole, but that's part of the comedy. But as the show goes on, you find out why he's an asshole and that he's aware that he's an asshole and he just wants people to love him. And he's got depression and alcohol problems and drug problems. And we meet a whole bunch of other characters like Diane, who is this writer who's trying to write a book on him, and she's also got her own personal issues. And then you also got Mr. Peanut Butter, played by Paul F. Tompkins, and Amy Sedaris, who plays Princess Caroline, BoJack's agent. Yeah, and all right, I mean all these other characters. So let's get into this. So this is gonna be season 6 of BoJack, which. Unfortunately, it's going to be the last season of BoJack Horseman. It was announced it's going to be the final season, but they're separating into 2 parts. So we just had part 1 come out at the end of October, and I took my time watching this show because I was a little I was having trouble watching it because it's like the last season. I love this show so much, and even though I can admit that not everything should go on forever, I love this show so much. I look forward to every season. Where I was weirdly afraid to start this season because I was like, oh, this is the beginning of the end of this series that I love so much. But anyway, so at the end of the last season, after BoJack, went through one of the darkest periods in the show's history, where due to drug and alcohol abuse, he almost killed somebody. He entered a drug rehab facility, and we start off there at the beginning of the season. And it's a very interesting episode. So let's just once again, and this first episode is about him and, going through the history of where did his alcohol abuse start? And we have a montage of him, not montage, a flashback going back to certain periods in life where certain particular drinking moments that defined his, alcoholism. And going back, where did it start? And we keep going back farther and farther. And I'm like, holy shit, when was the first time he ever had alcohol? When did this all start? And if you've watched the show before, you know that BoJack, one of the reasons why he is the way he is, because his parents were in a loveless marriage. They were both mean, depressed, drunks themselves, and this led to BoJack, being very afraid of his parents as a child and leading him to become the person he is. So, there's so many factors, and that's one of the reasons I love this show so much. These characters, they're not just they're funny. The comedy in the show is great. It really is. Just so many little jokes, and the fact that we're in a world with animal people, they have all these little animal puns and whatnot. So lots of good funny stuff. But what's the best thing is between all the jokes and laughter, all that stuff, we have moments where these characters, we really get deep and layered and, study depression, anxiety, the pressure of celebrity, the pressure of trying to be who you are or what people expect you to be. I mean, every season covers so much stuff. I mean, last season, the whole Me Too thing was covered. In Hollywood, from the Hollywood point of view. And it's just, these characters, and BoJack, the main character, there are moments in this show, I know I'm getting off topic from the current season, but there's moments in this show where you're going to hate BoJack. He's going to do some nasty shit multiple times throughout the course of the show, whether it be in the current time or flashbacks to earlier in his life. He's done some mean, nasty things, but the show always makes you thoroughly understand why he did those things, what motivated him, why he reacted the way he did. It doesn't condone it; it explains. I want to stress that. The show never condones. As much as BoJack tries to, rationalize stuff because he's ashamed of himself. The show never really condones his actions. It explains it. You understand who BoJack is, what he does. But of course, there are going to be moments where you do enjoy having BoJack around because he's funny or the way he interacts with people. You care about the character, You acknowledge what he is, but, you still care about him. So, yeah, the first episode is rehab and him interacting with the other members of the rehab unit, including a young woman who's who just can't take it anymore. She wants to get out of the rehab and, all kinds of good stuff. So yeah, the first episode was called "A Horse Walks Into a Rehab." Next episode is called "The New Client," where we pick up with Princess Caroline, Bojack's former agent. I don't know. I think she's still, agent maybe or manager. I think it's still an agent. I don't know. It's kind of switched around, but anyway. So now should state Bojack Horseman is voiced by Will Arnett. I'm sure a lot of people know Will Arnett. And Princess Caroline is voiced by Amy Sedaris. So in this episode, we finally see that, Princess Caroline, who throughout the course of the show has been trying to figure out, how to make her personal life happy. She loves her job. She loves her work. She loves working with celebrities, putting TV shows, putting movies together, having her clients. Her job gives her, real purpose. But she does, but her personal life is another deal. And she's from trying to find a man to love to currently what the thing was this past season was her becoming a single mother, because she never really thought about it before. She thought, I should be married if I'm going to have a kid. But last season, she decided that she was going to try the single mother thing. And that was a lot of her struggles, trying to say, well, can I do this? Even though I want a child, am I, the right fit? Can I do it? And this season, we see that in the second episode, that she finally has her baby. She has a little baby porcupine, which is just a funny moments because she's a cat person and the baby's a porcupine, and she's constantly wearing like oven mitts because the quills on the baby keep ending up all over the place. In fact, a little minor spoiler, there's a part of the episode where somebody thinks she's using drug needles because the porcupine pricks all over her arm. But yeah, so we see her and she's stressed out, right? Because she's trying to balance being a mother because her babysitters have quit on her. So she's got a job and she's getting pulled in a whole bunch of different directions. And it's done in a nice visual way by having these colorful shadows. I'm going to call them, silhouettes or shadows of herself around her. And every time something gets piled up on top of her, a new silhouette of her appears. And it's just visually, mentally in her mind how she's feel like she's getting pulled or pushed in a dozen different directions because she's trying to, she's trying to keep up with her clients. She's trying to do the babysitter thing. She's trying to get involved in this new show. She's trying to do this photo shoot she's got going on. All these different things, and it's the noise of things bumping around her head, which is kind of irritating at times with the way that they use the sound. But that's the point. They're trying to make you feel like you're right there with Princess Caroline. I understand where her headspace is. She's got so many things jumbling in her head, and she's exhausted and tired. And it really allows you to kind of get in her headspace a bit. And I liked it. I like the use of that. In episode 3 called "Feel Good Story," we catch up with Diane, voiced by Alison Brie, who's now on the road doing an investigative journalist show. For the media, the media company, Girl Crush. That's another funny thing about the show. The dumb Hollywood names that actual companies or Hollywood would do. The show explains Hollywood, mocks it, and at the same time shows the hard work that does go into making movies and television. It's very balanced. It's very fair. But anyway, she's on the road with this cameraman named Guy, who's a Buffalo Man. It sounds weird. I know this sounds like a dumb cartoon animal show, but it's so layered. So she's doing investigative journalism, revealing, despicable businesses and all that kind of stuff. It's really making her feel good. Plus, her and Guy start to hit it off too, and there's a bit of a romance brewing there. And at the same time, Bojack is sending her letters about, his time in rehab. And, it's kind of narrated over with Bojack. And some of the things he's talked about is related to her. And that's one thing. In the show, Bojack and Diane, even are really good friends because they kind of understand each other more than other people can because of their depression and anxiety issues. They're really best friends. And it's been nice to see their friendship develop over the course of the seasons. Because when we first introduced Diane in season 1, Bojack is definitely attracted to her. He's definitely got a thing for her. And the show plays with, are they going to get together? Are they not going to get together? What's going on there? But I'm happy that they've become friends and good friends, because I think that's what really when they can get the most out of each other, for better or worse, is their friendship. And it's been nice to develop. So now what's going on with Diane in this episode, she's dealing with the fact that the company she works for, Girl Crush, has been sold to basically a media conglomerate called White Whale. Basically, the worst kind of like media conglomerate, like the guy who runs the thing is like this old. He's a white whale. He's an old white man. The same kind of guys you see running these giant corporations that we see nowadays. And she wants to like make meaningful work, but at the same time she's scared because her relationship with Guy is growing and she doesn't know about that. And she wants to keep working, doing investigative journalism, but she's getting shut down by the very company she works for. So it's it's definitely a lot of things we've seen with Diane before. But with Guy, this guy seems legitimate. He's not like it's not like with her former relationship with Mr. Peanut Butter, which we'll get to in a minute. Where Mr. Peanut Butter and her were like, she was attracted to Mr. Peanut Butter because he's so happy and go lucky, kind of the opposite of what she is. But Guy's just kind of more real and down to earth. He's not depressed or sad or anything. He's just a real person. Real normal character, and he's not like over the top like Mr. Peanut Butter is. He's a better fit for Diane. Whether or not their relationship works out in the end, we'll see. But he's a different kind of person for her to date, and it seems like more of the type of guy that she kind of needs. I'll say a better fit than Mr. Peanut Butter. Once again, we'll see how that relationship goes. But anyway, speaking of Mr. Peanut Butter, voiced by comedian Paul F. Tompkins. Oh, I got that name wrong. Paul F. Tompkins? Yeah, Paul F. Tompkins. Okay. Paul F. Tompkins. But anyway, Mr. Peanut Butter is... oh, there we go. So Mr. Peanut Butter, we found out last season Mr. Peanut Butter, after breaking up with Diane, they broke up the season before, but we see Mr. Peanut Butter trying to move on, and he starts a new relationship with Pickles, another dog person, who has basically the exact same personality that he does. Very energetic, very happy-go-lucky, that type of character. But, last season, spoilers if you didn't see last season, after getting involved in a relationship with Pickles, he kind of cheated on her with Diane. They had sex a couple times. And in this episode, we see the guilt is finally throughout the course of the season, we've been seeing the guilt get to him far too much. And it's like at the point where it's bubbling and he has to like confess to Pickles and all this stuff. And what we get is a really funny, like, oh, this is a goofy, like, how do we get out of this situation where they're fighting and stuff like that. And, the other characters get corralled into it by accident. And that's another thing. Mr. Peanut Butter, he's always got his personality really hasn't changed. He's just always this type of character where everything has gone right for him, and everything's always been easy. The only thing that has never gone right for him is his relationships. We have found out through the course of these past 6 seasons that he's been involved in multiple relationships, but they've never worked out. His career has always gone well and all that stuff, and and that's the evolution of his character, where he's been able to maintain his sense of happiness, but he has a better understanding that the world is more complicated, and just because things go well for him, not everything goes well for everybody else around him, and he needs to be more aware of that. He hasn't completely developed in that sense. Like, he's still a little too caught up, and but it's nice seeing the small evolutions in these characters, the changes that have occurred. So yeah, and as the season goes on, we see other things like Bojack's still been in the rehab center this whole time, and we start to see when he starts to finally leave the rehab center, and it's really about him. Like, you can't get away from him anymore. Bojack has to confront his past. He has to talk about things. He has to talk about the things he doesn't want to talk about, and he seems to be finally moving forward with his life, in a sense, where he's finally acknowledging all the shit in his past, the wrongdoing. He can't escape the wrongdoings or why he acts the way he is. Why he has these horrible defense mechanisms. And it's starting, and it seems like that for a lot of people in the season, where things are starting to move forward. Like Diane and Guy, their relationship's going pretty well, where she's starting to realize that this guy, is pretty good for her, and maybe she needs to not lighten up, but realize that he's kind of seen me the way I am. He hasn't run off yet. Maybe he does love me. I don't know. Bojack is kind of letting loose a little bit. Kind of letting the celebrity facade drop a little bit. He's still Bojack. Don't get me wrong. He's still Bojack. Princess Caroline is starting to find a balance between her work life and being a mother. And Todd, is. Seems to finally have a steady job. Todd Chavez, who's this bum who used to live in Bojack's house, but then they became friends, voiced by Aaron Paul. And you wouldn't know it at first because he doesn't sound like himself when he's doing the voice for the character. But it's great stuff. But then, because this is BoJack Horseman, as the first half of the season starts to come to a close, the fates start to collide. I won't say much more about that, but yeah. So BoJack Horseman, season 6, part 1. Because like I said earlier, this is season 6, but they're breaking it up into 2 parts. The second half of season 6 will come out in January. So BoJack season 6 so far, good, just good as always. It's a little different because it's like this isn't the final season of the show. Like I said, unfortunately, I wish the show would keep going. But it's definitely the characters are finally starting to move forward with their lives in positive ways. But the big shit is still just around the corner because this is not everything has a happy ending and nice little bow and everything's wrapped up. Things are gonna hit. And they're gonna hit hard. Soon. So we'll see how that ends up. Hey everybody, hope you enjoyed that clip. If you want to see a full episode, I live stream over on Facebook, and of course, don't forget to click subscribe and check out some more videos.